All right, thank you everyone, and welcome to our March 15th City Council meeting. Madam Clerk, could you please read the roll?
Mr. Bozen?
Here.
Mr. Amos?
Here.
Mr. Morrissey?
Here.
Mrs. Klein?
Here.
Mr. Foyce?
Here.
Mr. Greider?
Here.
Mrs. Jewin?
Here.
All right, thank you. Right now, if you would please join me in a moment of silence. All right, thank you. I guess I am leading the pledge this evening, so please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America,
And to the republic for which it stands,
which is
one
nation,
under God, indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, thank you.
Making a motion to approve the agenda as amended, and the amendment is to remove item 1A13, which is resolution awarding bid to Restoration Services, Inc. in the amount of $77,500 for tuck pointing, power washing, and sealing of exterior building at Waterloo Public Library, and approving the contract, bond, and certificate of insurance, and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute and document. It is being removed so that more time can be given to review this project.
And Mrs. Jewin, I apologize. I had an error on the amendment sheet. That's actually 1A12.
1A12.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Missed that. Okay. So move the agenda as amended in the minutes of March 1st, 2021 regular session as proposed.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Mr. Mayor.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Morrissey.
Yeah, did we get an agenda item that had a bunch of other amendments? Item number 8, number 9, and number 10?
And I was going to ask, I think Mrs. Felkley said that those were already posted. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I did send out an email to council last week that had a listing of changes that were made to the agenda after the final agenda went out on Wednesday. Because we were still outside of the 24-hour notice period, those changes were made to the agenda and incorporated in. The amendment sheet that you see tonight is one that we need to do to provide legal notice to the way that we need to actually change the agenda for tonight. Through talking with staff today, we're going to handle those a little bit differently in the future so that it's a little less confusing. Instead of using the amendment sheet, we'll use a different format to illustrate those changes. But anything that happens between Wednesday and Friday doesn't have to be read into the record tonight.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Morrissey. For the agenda, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you, council. I have 2 proclamations. One is National Ag Day, and I will read that. Whereas on National Ag Day, we recognize the farmers and ranchers who work hard to provide food, fuel, and fiber for all of us. And whereas over the past year, we faced unprecedented challenges that required unprecedented solutions. Through it all, the Iowa agricultural community has shown its resilience and willingness to help those in need. Whereas each individual American farmer feeds more than 165 people, providing safe, abundant, and affordable products we use and wear on a daily basis. Whereas agriculture brings in two $1,988,000 of total value added industry in the Black Hawk County, Iowa, and $7,304,000 in sales, and $1,466,000 in wages. And whereas approximately 1 in every 5 jobs across Iowa are agriculture related, with a total of 399,631 jobs, representing 20% of Iowa's total jobs. And whereas Waterloo, Iowa's economy and history as a factory city is building out agricultural-based manufacturing, food processing. And whereas in recognition and celebration of the abundance provided by agriculture, we join with producers, agricultural associations, corporations, universities, government agencies, United States Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack, and Iowa Secretary of Agriculture Mike Nag, and countless others across America to recognize the contributions of agriculture. Now, therefore, I, Quentin Hart, Mayor of the City of Waterloo, do hereby proclaim March 23rd, 2021 as National Ag Day. Right. And going along with that, we have a proclamation by the Iowa Food Bank Association. And whereas the Secretary's ag leaders are given to people and organizations who make exceptional contributions to the state's food and agricultural community. And whereas the award is being bestowed upon the Iowa Food Bank Association and its 6 regional partners because of their extraordinary efforts to help feed Iowans in need during the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas the Iowa Food Bank Association played a vital role in the state's food security initiatives, including Pass the Port, Beef Up Iowa, Pack and Pantry, and Turkey to Table. And whereas we recognize that the Iowa Food Bank Association has distributed 50 million meals, which is a 30% increase, and the Northeast Iowa Food Bank has distributed 11.8 million meals, an increase of 20%. Now, therefore, I, Quentin Hart, Mayor of the City of Waterloo, do hereby join Iowa Secretary of Agriculture and Land Management in honoring the Iowa Food Bank Association for contributions to feeding Iowa, including those residing here in Waterloo during the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you, and very, very worthy and needed proclamation. So, all right. Without further ado, Madam Clerk, do we have anyone that would like to? Oh, okay. We have our swearing in ceremony.
All right. Welcome everyone today. Very special day. Have an opportunity to swear in some incredible gentlemen with our law enforcement. And we're taking the oath, so if you can raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I, Anthony Friends, do solemnly swear I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and I will faithfully and impartially, to the best of my ability, discharge all the duties of the position of police officer in the city of Waterloo, Black Hawk County, Iowa, as now or hereafter required by law. All right, congratulations. All right. You want to say a little bit about?
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, right now, Madam Clerk, is there anyone that has asked to speak to the City Council and Mayor tonight?
Yep, I have a Sheila Beal talking about inclusive parks, streets, and roads.
All right, thank you. Sheila Baird. All right, Mr. Baird, are you on?
I don't see her on.
Let me see. Yeah, I don't see her on either. I think, Mr. Morrissey, do you know what the update was going to be on?
I have no idea what you're referring to, Mr. Mayor.
Who was that? This was from, Kelly, was this from the Complete Streets, or who was this from again?
No, this is from a woman named Sheila Beal.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry about that. All right. Do we have anyone else registered?
Nobody else for oral presentations.
All right. Before we get to you, counsel, I was going to open it up to any other citizens, Mr. Morrissey.
Well, I just wanted to add that Joshua Jeeb had contacted me. He tried contacting the clerk's office today, couldn't get through. He wanted to speak on the Dollar General.
He did contact us, and he has the Zoom information, and I actually believe he is on currently.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
so,
thanks. That's
so
all.
We'll wait till that item comes up, and Mrs. Felkley will let you know, Mr. JB, okay? All right, thank you.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello, I'm Sheila Beal.
Okay.
I was muted and they wouldn't let me talk. So I was like, I'm pushing a bunch of buttons trying to figure out what's going on.
Well, how about this? If you give me your name and address for the record,
Okay.
It's your floor.
Okay, it's Sheila Beal, and my address is 315 Gale Street, Waterloo, Iowa, 50701. And my concern is on the exclusive park. I did some research. We already have 52 parks in the city of Waterloo. And over the summer last year, they had problems keeping up with the mowing of the parks and the weed whacking. Like Ghost Town Park, which is not far from me, it was one period of time, 3 weeks straight, the grass was like 3 feet tall in certain areas. And there's people that use that for Frisbee golf. But my point is, they're talking about doing another park, and I know it's grant money. I figured this all out and that it's funded, but who's going to maintain that? I know they have free maintenance for 7 to 10 years from somebody that lives across from this, where they're planning to put it. And my question is, after that 10 years, it will be on the city to maintain that. So my suggestion is to put it into a park that we already have.
Right. All right. Are you referring to the inclusive part, not the exclusive? Yeah. So that is
inclusive.
Okay. So that's going to be a private development. So that will be maintained by someone else. So if I'm not mistaken, no, the city's not putting any money into that at all.
Right. But after the 10 years that they do not maintain it, then it will be on the taxpayers to maintain that.
All right. Well, we'll definitely make sure, keep that in consideration for the council as they vote on that part coming up in the future.
That's the main thing, because they cannot keep up with the maintenance now. Right. I've been to the dog park they charge you a fee to take your dog there, but there's been multiple times that it has not been mowed or weed whacked.
Okay. All right.
I have nothing against handicapped children. I love handicapped children, but I'm saying we need to put it somewhere where we already have a park.
Okay. All right. All right.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you for your comments, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. Let's move to council comments. Mr. Morrissey, I think, was first. All right, Mr. Dillevue, are you on?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, yes, sir, it's your floor. Sorry about that.
Thank you kindly. It's hard to get in out here in this phone I have. First, I'd like to urge you to open up the meetings down there. As you hear, people are having trouble hearing. I had a person comment today who listens all the time. He said it is terribly difficult. Can't see, can't hear. all kinds of pop tops going off and dogs barking and other people talking in the background and babies crying, I think it's time to open the meetings. Anyway, I will speak to the proposed park over here on Falls Avenue.
Mhm.
This park was promised to the children years ago. When they redid the school up here at Blackhawk, they took a park away. They promised the kids a park back, and it's years later. I know kids got to sit and wait longer than anybody else, but it's time to give them back a park, Mayor and Council. And my wife was in there scolding me. Anyway, and I would like to see that park go through for the neighborhood.
So you're in favor,
Thank-
you're in favor of doing the park or having the private developer do the park?
Yes, I am. And
All right. Thank you, Mr.
Yes.
Dillon. And Mrs.
when they took it away from Blackhawk up here, the city promised to give land back. So this is a way of doing it, I believe.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Morrissey.
No, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to tell you about Joshua G.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry about that. Mrs. Klein.
Watching those young officers being sworn in, it just makes my heart sore that I could not be in that room to shake their hand and to look them in the eye. They're starting a tough career. And I think we are capable of joining in the chambers, safely joining with masks and social distancing. The people need it. You can just see how much difficulty people are having, and my own personal difficulties. I don't live in the big houses you guys live in. My grandchildren live down the street just a little bit, and they forget all the time that I'm on and run in, and my puppy will not be silenced. And this is not our natural setting. We're supposed to be in the chamber. We're supposed to be dressed respectfully, behaving respectfully, looking one another in the eye, sharing a conversation. I think sooner than later, I am praying that we can come back as soon as we have had that 25th March or 25th meeting, the meeting on the 25th. I'd like to see us never have these Zoom meetings again.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Klein.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Greider.
So Mother Nature was very kind to us today and gave us one last parting gift for winter. And I just wanted to thank all the public works employees who are out there working in this wet mess, getting our streets clear for the people. I know the morning commute was not fun for a lot of our residents. And so I just want to thank our public works employees for the hard work that they do all winter and especially today.
All right. Thank you. Any other comments, council?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Morrissey.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up something a little bit different. I know there's going to be some other discussions by me in the future regarding some things that I've expected to have happen that haven't happened, but I'm going to wait and see on that. But before I say anything like that into the future, I just want to hold my head up high. I want to speak positively about things for the city of Waterloo that are being done by our national leaders. And first and foremost is the American Rescue Plan, and that $350 billion that is coming to state and local governments, with $45 billion going to municipalities, means that somebody really does care about what has happened to all municipalities. And as you told us, the 31 plus a couple other million homeless dollars coming in are going to do wonders in helping out and providing relief for our city. Also on the national level, I hope people keep themselves aware and in tune to several different kinds of things that are happening. The For People's Act, the Protect the Right to Organize Act, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, the National Popular Vote Advancement Act, and the Equality Act. And when I hear somebody who is a national leader say that help is on the way, it means something to me now. And I hope that the people of Waterloo look to see what is going to happen to help them out in their roles as citizens and their roles as residents of the city of Waterloo.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Last but not least, right now we have a survey out for our 2030 plan. So please send that out to your colleagues and everyone out there. I think so far, Wendy said within a week, I think we already had 500 people fill out that survey about what they want to see Waterloo become, and the critical questions we need to answer about our future. So please make sure you encourage your constituent to fill out the 2030 survey so we can hear what their voices are saying as well. Mrs. Jewin, you want to close the presentations?
Motion to close public hearing, public comments, receive comments, and place on file.
Second.
Motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Oral presentation is closed.
A motion to approve the consent agenda with the addition in 1A1 in the amount of, for March 8th, 2021, in the amount of $823,601.78. And for March 15th, 2021, the amount is $4,642,407.50. Move to receive, approve, and place on file.
Second.
Motion has been made.
No.
You mind if I second so we can open it up? Okay.
I said second, Mayor.
Yeah, motion's been made with second. Mr. Bozen.
Could we pull 6 for further discussion?
Yeah.
Thank you.
186.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other ones, council? All right. On those items, Madam Clerk, a roll call vote.
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
Mrs. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Bozen.
Mr. Mayor, I've adopted a resolution authorizing an exception to the City of Waterloo's purchasing procedures policy to approve the purchase of an Easy Liner model TS-AL 120 truck mounted striping machine from Easy Liner of Orange City, Iowa.
Second.
The motion has been made with the second. Mr. Bozen.
And I just had a few questions because it says truck mounted striping machine, but it's actually I believe Mr. Bennett can correct me. I believe it's the truck and the machine. Is Mr. Bennett on?
Mr. Bennett.
This is Sandy Greco. Randy's on vacation this week.
Okay.
And I can answer your question. Yes, this is a truck mounted paint machine. It is on a truck. It's a new truck and a new paint machine altogether.
Okay, thank you. My other question was, I was concerned with, Orange City, Iowa's 230 miles away, and it looks like we're paying $1,300 for shipping. Are they putting it on a lowboy truck to ship it here, or do you know how it's coming?
Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to go up and pick it up.
Okay.
And we're going to have training for a day up there to go through the whole new unit because it's all state of the art. It's replacing a 2007 unit.
Okay, and those are my questions because we had, when I looked through that bid sheet, we had $1,300 in shipping, and then we had $1,900 a day in training for 2 days for $3,800. So can you give us an amount of what we're going to be paying for training then?
Let's see.
I can't believe it's $30 to send people there to train to use their machine.
No, and I can get that back to you. He's got $3,800 in here for 2 days of training, but we're only going to be up there for a day, and we're picking up the unit.
So is that 1,300 our expenses to pick it up? Or is that going to change too?
Yeah, that'll change too, because that was going to be for them to deliver it to us.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
That's all.
Thank you, Sandy. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
Mrs. Klein,
Yeah,
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin,
Yes.
and Mr. Bozen.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Just really quickly want to highlight some of our appointments. Scott McDonald, John Merzlack, Matthew Carpenter, James Linfer, all our reappointments, and one new appointment as Matthew Carpenter on our Memorial Hall Commission. And then Anthony Miller, Ethan Mangridge, Sarah Topliff, Sherry Jones, and Carrie Chandler as all new appointments to the International Property Maintenance Board. So I want to thank them all for their service and for signing up. Could someone take number 2 for me?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Morrissey.
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file proof of publication notice of public hearing on a request by DGOG Waterloo, Iowa, 1104-2020 LLC to rezone a 3.46 acre property northeast of 2600 East Shawless Road from A1 Agricultural District to CP Planned Commercial District with conditions to construct a new Dollar General store.
Second.
All right, the motion has been made with the motion and second to open that hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now open. Madam Clerk, before we move to Mr. GB, are there any comments on file?
No comments on file.
All right, Mr. Joshua, it's your floor, sir.
Yes, can everyone hear me okay?
You sure can.
Okay. This come up at a different location, really close to where it's proposed right now, previously. And it was asked by the constituents and the neighbors out here if this was something that was going to fit, and it was passed or decided that it was not going to move forward with the rezoning. And now it has moved just a short distance away, and there was no consideration given to anybody else. Just for point of discussion here, the nearest Dollar General from this location is 3.3 miles away, located at 66 East Tower Park Drive. The next one is 4.4 miles away at 820 West 5th Street. And then the next one is 5 miles away at 3715 Lafayette Road in Evansdale. There is quite a saturation of Dollar Generals located within easy driving distance of this location. And also this Dollar General is going to be right in the backdrop of the water park and the new amusement park in Waterloo. I mean, realistically, does the city of Waterloo want a Dollar General being the first thing people see as they turn to approach the water park, the amusement park, the Isle Casino? And then also, secondly, as you all drive around Waterloo and you see the Dollar Generals, the Family Dollars, the Dollar Trees, the parking lots are horrendous with the trash that is just let go in the parking lot. And I just don't see this as being a positive entity being in the location so close to what is going to be our biggest attraction to the city of Waterloo.
Right. All right. Yeah, and that's kind of why we're bringing this back around to a public discussion again. So definitely thank you for your comments. Joshua, could you state your name and address for the record again so we have it?
Joshua, JB, J, E as in Echo, B as in Bravo, E as in Echo, 2919 Cherrywood Lane, Waterloo, Iowa, 50701.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for your comments.
Mhm.
Is there anyone else on the line that would like to comment Anyone from the public that would like to comment on this item?
I also have a Dusty Ross that's registered to speak to this item.
All right.
Excuse me, Rusty Doss.
It's your floor.
All right, thank you. Primarily, like the gentleman said, we were not successful in trying to rezone the piece of property down the road, and we've moved north of Shallis Road there. It kind of completes the zoning on the north side of Shallis all to CP. So it felt like that was a much better fit in terms of matching the existing zoning. It wasn't out by itself. We've I don't know if you've seen any of the renderings and so forth, but we've upgraded the exterior of the building significantly over the standard to sort of try to make it fit in better. We've gone through the 218 overlay district meetings. We've addressed, you've probably seen those conditions. We've agreed to their conditions from their review, and I believe all the staff reports that I've seen have been generally positive in that we've met the requirements. So other than that, I'm just sort of here to answer any questions.
All right, Mr. Dawes, can you state your name and address for the record, and maybe to let us know? I'm assuming you represent this development.
That's right. My name is Rusty Doss. My business address is 1598 Imperial Center in West Plains, Missouri, and I do represent the developer of this property. It's the umbrella is the Overland Group is what we're known as.
Okay. And right now it is public comments, and there may be some comments from the council once we close out the public hearing. So definitely please stay around. All right, Kelly, is there anyone else that would like to speak to this item on the agenda?
Nobody else.
All right,
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Morrissey.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing, receive and file the oral comments and the recommendation of approval of the Planning, Programming, and Zoning Commission.
Second.
Motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion, receive, file, consider, and pass for the first time an ordinance amending ordinance number 5079 as amended, City of Waterloo zoning ordinance by amending the official zoning map referred to in section 10-4-4 to approve a request by DGOG Waterloo, Iowa 1104-2020 LLC to rezone a 3.46 acre property northeast of 2600 East Shallis Road from A1 Agricultural District to CP Planned Commercial District with conditions to construct a new Dollar General store.
Second.
The motion has been made with the second. Council, questions?
Mr.
Mayor.
I don't even know where, it's funny, I have these boxes on here, and Dave, your box came up first. So Mr. Bozen.
I'm glad I got the green first. I have a number of questions, and to start with, the first one is that this land, but the majority of this area that the Dollar General store is going to sit in is in the 100-foot floodplain, and I realize that they'll have to raise it up out of that floodplain, but that water's got to go somewhere. That's my first concern. The second one, I truly believe it's in a worse location than it was originally planned to, when it was actually farther south on Dysart Road. But the entrance and exit is actually on a 45-mile-an-hour curve, not just past the curve. And in the city engineer's information that he put out, that they were talking about putting a turn lane in on the reconstruction of Shallis. So what you're going to have is, within a block, you're going to have the main entrance to the theme park, and coming east, you're going to have a turn lane into Dollar General. Go a little bit farther, you're going to have a turn lane to get onto Shallis and Dysart and 218. And I just think with the amount of traffic and the turn lanes, it's going to be kind of confusing. But when you come out of the Dollar General store now in this new location, and you're going to go east on Dysart Road, you have to cross currently you would have to cross the merge lane that's installed on that curve, then the westbound lane, and then a turning lane, and then get into the eastbound lane. and this is not going to be a traffic controlled intersection because we're not going to put 3 traffic lights in that short of place. So I truly believe that it's not a good location. I think that the amount of traffic that we're going to see in 2022 when that theme park opens is going to be astronomical out there. And I would hope, and this is just me, that our planning department, that when the Birches notified of us of this amazing project that they're putting in, that we would have maybe created an overlay zone from Shawless to Hess down to LaPorte Road, where we had a vision on what we wanted to see for businesses going in there. I mean, it's hard to tell what anybody could apply to come into those areas, and it just might not be. And I'm not saying Dollar General isn't, but they just might not be a family oriented place or something that we really want to see that close to our theme parks and our water parks. And I would hope we would look at something like that in the future also. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Greider.
So I want to echo the comments from Mr. JB. This is my ward, and I have had people contact me about this who share many of Mr. JB's concerns and many of Mr. Bosen's concerns that the location seems to be off. We're now putting it on what will be one of the busiest intersections during the summer months, that if the theme park goes as well as we're all hoping, in a very busy place with lots of traffic. In addition, there are concerns about, there's talk of putting in a sidewalk along this property, but there's no sidewalks in the area. So there are concerns of having pedestrians along a very high-paced stretch of road, as well as just that maybe this business does not fit into the overall vision, like Mr. Bosen said, that we should have an idea of what the development that will go in here should be. And so for that reason, I will be opposing this ordinance. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Other questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Morrissey.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from Sandy Greco or Mohammed, if Mohammed's on, regarding the traffic situation, studies, and the feasibility, viability of having this business there, given the possible congestion that might be occurring from this. And then secondly, hearing Mr. GB talk regarding the business and trash and litter and stuff like that, I'd like to hear from Mr. Dawes how he would plan to take care of that kind of beautification, sightliness issue.
All right, Sandy or Mohammed, with regards to Mr. Morrissey's questions about traffic.
Sure. This is Sandy Greco again. I know Mohammed did a study where they were first location. I'm not sure if we were involved in this much. Maybe Noel or Jamie could help with that. I'm sure that Dollar General probably was required to do a traffic study in that area, but we weren't really involved on that side.
Right, no.
Noel Anderson, Community Planning Development Director. In the Novus report, we tried to summarize that there was a meeting on January 7th with traffic operations, the planning department and engineering department to look at the traffic data supplied by Dollar General. None of the departments noted any major concerns regarding the traffic generation to and from the site. As Councilman Bosen noted, it was determined that a turn lane would be required for eastbound traffic wanting to turn, and the turn lane would be installed as part of the reconstruction of Shawless. The street light, that under the conditions, there was a condition of a street light being added for visibility at night, and then the sidewalk portions for future pedestrian accommodations in the overall area. So the departments did look at it based on the information provided by Dollar General, and there was no concerns shown on the number of vehicles per hour and all that and the traffic turning.
Noel, was that did that include the thinking once the park was up and running?
Yes, that was shown with the the known traffic conditions that we're anticipating with the theme park being there.
And no one saw any problem with it.
That is correct.
All right, and if we could have someone talk about the garbage, Mr. Dawes.
Yeah, thank you. You know, the trash dumpster that we've got with the enclosure, it's the standard thing that we do on most of our locations. As far as, you know, maintaining the look, can certainly add a condition to anything that you'd want to see. That's more of an operations thing that, you know, obviously we don't control that being the developer in terms of building things. But, you know, certainly we'd be open to whatever type of ordinance condition that the council would want to add in terms of keeping things looking nice. That's about all I can offer, just simply because I'm not in charge of operations.
Thank you. Council, other questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Here.
Mr. Foy.
So I just what Councilman Boson brought up a little bit ago about the overlay and things like that, and the overall picture. Does Mr. Anderson have an idea? Do we have anything like that that would give us a picture? I mean, we're going to have a brand new shiny theme park over there, and you know, we want to make sure that looks nice for years and years and years. And you know, I understand what Mr. GB said about the condition of some of our other Dollar General stores. I drive on my way downtown past one, and I see the condition of it, and then I work near one, and I see the condition of that. And I agree, I don't want our first impression to be one. I mean, we struggle with what people think of our city right now in terms of things. I don't want people to come and that's kind of it. But if Mr. Anderson can kind of describe if there's some thinking that his department has in that area, that would be great.
Well, Anderson, Community Planning Development Director. You know, part of that is taken in the process that we're going through today. So, you know, the theme park and the Lost Island Water Park were at one point zoned agricultural. They were rezoned to CP, which is a planned commercial, which gives us a little bit more oversight and council review on how that is developed and designed. There is a Highway 218 design review corridor that goes throughout the city, basically about 300 feet or so on each side of the highway following property lines. So it'll jut out and in at places, but so there is a design review corridor that did review this. In terms of the building design, they have a masonry sandstone wall that are brown and gray in color that the design review committee thought blended into the compatibility of what was going to be built out there or what's built out there now. So they did look at some design review. You know, in terms of Councilman Boson talking about an overlay, you know, we can obviously look at something, expanding that overlay or having it, you know, expand from the 218 corridor or creating a separate one. A lot of that is also taken into account again with the rezoning process, going from agricultural, trying to rezone it to commercial, and having that oversight as part of that is what the zoning is for. Trying to think of so that was the information that they looked at when they made the recommendation for approval at the Planning Commission anyway, but that is something we can look at some more if the council would like it.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a follow-up?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson, so, you know, driving like Cedar Rapids, Des Moines, West Des Moines, they have some, you know, I think of like Jordan Creek area. And then I just drove through a few weeks ago in an area in Ankeny, these places that have all of this. So you're telling, what I'm hearing you say is this Dollar General, if we decided to build, anybody that comes in, we would be basing what all of the other businesses and what they would look like off what Dollar General looks like, correct?
There's a couple of different ways that it probably occurs as you're looking at different cities, different communities. You know, number one, the property owner themselves can oftentimes adopt private restrictions or covenants that are a lot more restrictive than zoning, saying that, hey, you can only have certain types of siding, or you must have concrete, you know, versus asphalt or something like that. They can do whatever they want in terms of private restrictions for new construction of areas. In terms of the design review board, that was just what they commented on this one, is that they thought that it was a compatible design with, you know, not having the metal siding and all that some of the other Dollar Generals have on some of their walls. This one, they went with a full ethos system, masonry type siding and all that. So they thought that was more compatible and thought that it was a neighborhood retail type use in a new area of the community. But there's different ways we can look at putting more restrictions in place, you know, either through the platting of the land or the private owners or with an overlay district.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I'm sitting here listening to this, and I just have to make this comment. I remember a few weeks back that as a council, the majority decided that they would listen to and support development over the voice of the people. And now I'm hearing them do just the opposite, listening to the people talking about the Dollar General wouldn't fit out there, even though I heard this gentleman say that it would be a better looking place. And we just had a Dollar General built out on Idaho Street, and that Dollar General is clean, the place looks nice and everything else. So for me, I guess I'm at a little bit of a point of confusion here as to, just because of the location, Dollar General, I understand that. But by the same token, it's development coming to the city of Waterloo. So like I said, I say that, I don't know how the other council people feel, but I know what happened a few weeks ago, and now I'm seeing something different. So it's just a matter of, like I say, I'm a little bit confused, and I will be supporting this development.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Amos. I think one thing is, this is, we'll go to Ms. Jewin, but this is something that had come back from one of their prior times. So, but anyway, Ms. Jewin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just begin by saying this is going to be such a huge tourist attraction, not just for Waterloo and the region, but the whole Midwest. So I think this is going to be the front door to Waterloo for a lot of people, and we want it to look our very best. So it's different than a residential development, Mr. Amos, that we were talking about before. This is something that's going to be the gateway to Waterloo. So I appreciate everyone's comments. I don't think that a Dollar General, and nothing against them, they're wonderful stores, but I don't think that's the look we want for the first impression when somebody drives in to this huge tourist attraction. I would very much like to see a design overlay district that encompasses the water park, the amusement park, even over to where we have the cottages, that whole, and the Isle. That whole area, again, is a huge tourist attraction. And I think it behooves all of us to make sure that it's the look that we want, and as attractive as it can be for all of the thousands of people that will be coming into this area and judging that Waterloo by that area. Thank you.
All right. I think I won't put words in Mr. Amos' mouth, but I think maybe one of the points he was making, that regardless of where you go, make sure we have the same standards for development.
Totally,
so
this is a totally different kind of development. Totally different.
Right. All right. So let me say first, is there anyone that did not speak yet from council that would like to speak before we go to Mr. Bozen and then Mr. Morrissey? All right, Mr. Bozen.
Thank you, sir. And on the subject of an overlay, I would like to come right out LaPorte Road, from the hotels all the way out Hess, and then include Shawless all the way down to the lights at 218. But that being said, and I respect Muhammad, and I respect the traffic studies. Dollar General did a traffic study that was presented to us on the last project that on the other side of Dysart Road. My concern is that I drive that road every day. And I can tell you during the summertime that for a half hour to an hour before that water park opens up, it's bumper to bumper traffic out there. When the casino has out there, it's bumper to bumper traffic. And when that theme park opens up and throughout the day, and when that theme park closes, it's going to be just traffic lined up from 218 all the way back to the theme park. And I think it's going to be extremely congested right there. And I truly felt in the questions that I asked, the location is not a good location, especially the location on that curve. On the most of it's in the 100-foot floodway or floodplain. It's just not a good location for me, especially exiting and entering that business from that curve. And it's a 45-mile-an-hour curve, unless Mr. Knudsen can tell me that we're dropping the speed limit through there once the theme park opens up, because I'm not sure what the speed limit plan is when we reconstruct Shawless. That's it, sir.
Mr. Morrissey.
Oh, were they going to answer Dave's questions?
We're not. Have you, Jamie? Have you gotten the speed limit down for the project in about another year or so? Do you have the concept already?
We haven't. We've discussed that briefly in some of our internal meetings, and it's certainly it's been designed for the 45-mile-an-hour speed limit, but it can certainly be lowered through that entire area. It's a matter of council doing that. I believe Sandy handles most of those. It's just a matter of sending that back through and revising the ordinance for that.
So Sandy, once you figure that out, come back to the council so we can make sure our voices are heard. Mr. Morrissey.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. What I'm wondering is the way this is worded, we're rezoning about 3.5 acres from agricultural to commercial plan. Is that just because of Dollar General, or is that include other potential projects going in there? And does that mean that this item right here only is up because Dollar General wants to develop part of that 3.5 acres? And if that's it, how much of that 3.5 acre getting rezoned is going to be Dollar General if approved?
All right. No, I know it says with conditions to construct a new Dollar General, but would you answer that question?
Noel Anderson, Community Planning Development Director. So this is just for the Dollar General site, which is about 3.46 acres. If you go on Blackhawk County online, it's a little confusing. I think it says 23 acres. That's because the same parcel is on both sides of Highway 218. So it's very confusing to look at that. But this is just for the Dollar General site at CP. In the site plan in the packet, they are taking up the majority of the site because obviously it's a little bit strange in that it's triangular in nature. There is a possibility that I suppose if Dollar General wanted to subdivide it later and have another business on the south side of where they're showing their parking lot, that would be something that would have to come back for approval since it's a planned commercial. And at that time, we could look at it for design, for additional traffic and all that if that was something that happened.
Okay. So they would be taking up most of that 3.46 acres then, if I heard you correctly.
The way it's laid out, like I said, they could, you could potentially put another building and parking lot there about the same size as theirs. So they're probably taking up about half of it. Obviously, they'd have to figure out stormwater and all that for other spacing, but it's triangular shape. So it's a little strange to get too much in there.
Okay. And how much in the way of tax revenue will they be adding?
A Dollar General, I don't have that right in front of me. I would guess that the permit would be probably 1.5 million or so.
Okay, and that would add to city coffers about how much per year?
Probably 60,000.
Okay. And Mr. Mayor, I'm wondering if Mr. Doss and Dollar General has met all the requirements and have gone this far into this. If we were to turn this down, would there be any legal issues that could come back on us?
You want to ask them if there's legal issues?
No, I'm asking Marty Peterson if there's any legal issues that could be against us if we would go against or we would vote this down after they have met all the guidelines for this to go through.
So, Mr. Anderson or Mr. Peterson, if the council decides not to rezone in this situation, are there any legal repercussions?
I can answer first. I was way off in the value. Sorry. The one on Idaho is about 600,000.
Legal repercussions.
In terms of value. So sorry about that. I was not close on that. In terms of them suing us, obviously they always have that prerogative. Marty can correct me if I'm wrong, but they'd have to state the reasons why they believe that the council was acting not in conformance with its overall plan or specifically against Dollar General.
Mr. Peterson, if the city decides not to rezone this agricultural land, are there any repercussions?
As I understand it, this decision is soundly within the discretion of the city council. So I wouldn't anticipate any litigation.
All right, Mr. Morrissey.
Two other things. Are there any other potential buy-ins for this property, Noel? Anybody else interested in it?
Obviously, we have not heard of anyone else since it's not city owned. So I'm not sure if the buyer or the potential property owner, current property owner, has had other potential projects or not at this time. With the location and the new activity out there, obviously we would hope that there would be future projects to happen here if this one does not. But I'm not aware of any others at this time.
Okay. And the final comment, Mr. Mayor, is I second Councilman Amos's concern about there being a double standard here, having been one who went through what happened out there at the end of Fairfield, and the whole seemed to be about the development and what that was going to do for revenues. But at the same time, the consideration of the neighbors was not taken into account. It is going to destroy the character of that neighborhood out there. So I do see that double standard as Mr. Amos has referred to, and I will support this just like Mr. Amos has stated he's going to.
Madam Clerk, for the passing for the first time. Mrs.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I had no questions until the last few people spoke. The question of traffic, that is not restricted to a Dollar General build. It would be a restriction to any build. So is what we're saying about the traffic true to all potential developers out there? Because if it is, how are we going to develop out there? And what about an overlay? I like the idea of an overlay where it's a real planned, real controlled, thought out growth plan out there. I'd like that. But I don't think that the traffic argument holds up if you intend to develop it as that street is planned to be changed in the future. I don't think that holds up because traffic would happen if you had anything. Dollar General or McDonald's.
All right, so we have on the floor to rezone for a Dollar General in that area. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
Mrs. Klein,
No.
Mr. Foyce,
Mr. Foyce.
Sorry, no.
that's okay. Mr. Greider,
No.
Mrs. Jewin,
No.
Mr. Bozen,
No.
and Mr. Amos.
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, let's move on to number 3.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing, and that is for the sale and conveyance of property located at 3488 Wagner Road to come, just a minute here, let me take my glasses off, Cummins End Masonry LLC in the amount of $1 with a development and minimum assessment agreement.
Second.
Motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the hearing is now open. Madam Clerk, do we have someone on file to speak to this particular item?
We do. We have Mr. Mike Hammondsind is on the line.
Yes, sir. It's your floor. State your name and address for the record and let us know your thoughts.
Oh, yeah, this is Mike Kaminson. I own Kaminson Masonry. Current business address is 517 Ray Street, Waterloo, 50703. I just plan on moving my shop and office area out to this location and build, I believe it's 10,800 square foot shop with an office building on front. Be a pole building structure with the masonry office off the front for masonry construction business.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
I've submitted, I've submitted a site plan and some preliminary drawings on the project.
All right. Thank you so much. Mrs. Clerk, is there anyone else on the line or to speak?
Nobody else.
All right. Mr. Amos.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing and receive and file oral comments.
Second.
A motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the hearing is now closed.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion adopting a resolution authorizing the sale and conveyance of a portion of city-owned property to Cummins End Masonry LLC in the amount of $1, generally located north of 3488 Wagner Road, and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute said documents.
Second.
The motion has been made with the second. Council questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Bozen.
Thank you, sir. I fully support this development agreement, this project. My issue is, and I spoke with Mr. Anderson about this, and I got some information back from the attorney that wrote it up, is the fact that we have 2 substantial completion dates in this development agreement. The first one states it should be substantially completed by July 31st, 2022. And then further on in the development agreement, it says it should be substantially completed no later than December 21st, 2022. And when I asked about a clarification on why we had two substantial completion dates, the answer I got was in case they don't complete it in the original completion date, we don't have to come back to council to amend the development agreement. We give them an extra 6 months. And that makes no sense to me whatsoever. I mean, let's take it all the way to December, or let's stick it at July, but to put 2 substantial completion dates in the development agreement and use that analogy, in case they don't get it completed, we'll give them 6 more months. I say take it back to December 2022 and just have one date in there. And that's
my can we just move this to December
Yeah, I would be totally fine with that. I don't see it being a problem being done with, in the July, but December would give a little more time, to complete things. And, the second completion date was more speaking to the second piece of property, which was more of an intent to develop with, some interest on that. So I would be fine with moving it to the December date.
Kelly, how do we do that?
That's going to be listed in the contract itself, not the resolution. So if we've got both parties are agreeable to that, we can
Just do it.
Noel amend the contract. And then
Okay.
we will not route that for signature tomorrow. We'll wait till we get the updated version.
All right. Council, any other questions? Madam Clerk?
Mrs. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin,
Yes.
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
and Mr. Morrissey.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion adopting a resolution approving a development and minimum assessment agreement with Commons End Masonry LLC for the construction of a new industrial building with outdoor storage and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute said document.
Second.
Motion has been made with the second. Any other questions, council? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin,
Yes.
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
and Mrs. Klein.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Can someone take number 4, please?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Boyce.
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing, and that is for the fiscal year 2021 Riverfront Stadium Electrical Repair Project Contract Number 1046.
Second.
The motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now open. Madam Clerk, do we have any comments on file?
There are no comments on file.
All right. Mr. Paul Hudding.
Yes, this is Paul Hudding, Leisure Services Director. Just wishing to clarify that we do have insurance for this project. So while you'll see the amount later in this item, keep in mind we have a $50,000 deductible. So anything in excess of that $50,000 should be covered, including some earlier design fees, some rental for generator and some other things. Just wanted that to be understood. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Foyce.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing and receive and file oral comments.
Second.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now closed.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution confirming approval of plans, specifications, bid documents, form of contract, estimate of costs, etc., and authorizing to proceed.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. Council questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Boza.
just a quick question, and it's for Paul. I was just curious on, I'm disappointed that we only got one bid. And I don't know if Paul can address that on who we sent it out to. And I would hope that with the climate that we have here in Waterloo, and especially the construction climate, that we'd have more than one bid to bid on a project of this magnitude.
Paul Hudding again. All I can say to that is we did send it out to multiple bidders, including the company that initially did this installation before the damage, and several other companies as well. The reason that was cited, that I heard anyway, was that it's a pretty tight time frame. Okay. And it is going to be a challenge to get this done in time for the first pitch. Thank you.
Thank
you. All right. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin, Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
And Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to receive, file, and instruct the city clerk to read bids.
Second.
The motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Madam Clerk.
All right, our estimate was $150,000. We received one bid. It was from Community Electric Incorporated of Waterloo, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their base bid amount was $131,500. Their alternate number one bid was $1,420. Unit price number one was $15.20, and unit price number two was $3.60.
All right, thank you. Mr.
Mr.
Foyce?
Mayor? Yep,
Yes,
I'd like, oh, sorry, sir.
No, I was, yes, sir.
I would like to make a motion to adopt a resolution approving award of bid to Community Electric of Waterloo, Iowa, in the amount of $131,500 in conjunction with the fiscal year 2021 Riverfront Stadium Electrical Repair Project contract number 1046 and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute said document.
Second.
The motion has been made with the second. Madam Clerk.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
And Mr. Greider?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Number 5, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Morrissey.
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file proof publication notice public hearing for general obligation bonds, ECP-1, the issuance of not to exceed $19,750,000 in general obligation bonds for essential corporate purposes.
Second.
The motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now open. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone to speak to this item?
No comments on file and no one registered to speak.
Is there anyone in Cyberland that would like to speak to this item?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Morrissey.
I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
The motion's been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now closed.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion adopting a resolution instituting proceedings to take additional action.
Second.
The motion has been made with the second. Council? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
And Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion adopting a resolution authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $19,750,000 general obligation bonds and levying a tax for the payment thereof.
Second.
The motion's been made with the second. Council? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
And Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Number 6.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing, and that is for fiscal year 2021 Commercial Street, Katoski Drive, and Hawkeye Road Right Turn Lane Reconstruction Program, contract number 1024.
Second.
The motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now open. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone on file to speak or register?
No, we do not.
Is there anyone out there that would like to talk about this project? Going a second time.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
The motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now closed.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion adopting a resolution confirming approval of plan specifications, form of contract, et cetera, and authorizing to proceed.
Second.
Motion has been made with the second. Council questions? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
Mrs. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin,
yes,
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
and Mr. Amos.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to receive, file, and instruct the city clerk to read bids.
A motion has been made. Who made that second? Was that you, Mr. Bozen?
No, I mean,
Foyce.
Okay. All right, motion been made with the second. All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Madam Clerk, please read the bids.
All right, our estimate was $2,323,777.48. Our first bidder was Lodge Construction Incorporated of Clarksville, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their bid amount was $2,074,510.77. Our second bidder was Veith Construction Corporation of Cedar Falls, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their bid amount was $2,388,283.76. Our third bidder was Cedar Valley Corporation of Waterloo, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their bid amount was $2,231,490.56. Our fourth bidder was Peterson Contractors Incorporated of Rhinebeck, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their bid amount was $2,021,867.21. Our next bidder is K. Cunningham Construction Corporation Incorporated of Cedar Falls, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their bid amount is $2,027,154.63. And our final bidder is Midwest Concrete Incorporated of Piasta, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their bid amount is $2,316,323.11.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion adopting a resolution approving award of bid to Peterson Contractors, Inc. of Rhinebeck, Iowa, in the amount of $2,021,867.20, approving the contract bond and certificate of insurance in conjunction with fiscal year 2021 Commercial Street, Petoskey Drive, and Hawkeye Road right turn lane reconstruction program, contract number 1024, and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute said document.
Second.
Motion has been made with the second. Madam Clerk?
Mrs. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin,
yes,
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
and Mr. Morrissey.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Number 7, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Morrissey.
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file proof of publication notice of public hearing on the sale and conveyance of property located north of 3620 Wagner Road to Camenzind Masonry LLC in the amount of $1 with a development minimum assessment agreement.
Second.
A motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the hearing is now open. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this particular item? I see we have Mr. Camenzind online if there's any questions, but anyone out online have any questions? All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
The motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now closed.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion adopting a resolution authorizing the sale and conveyance of a portion city-owned property to Camenzind Masonry LLC in the amount of $1, generally located north of 3620 Wagner Road, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute said document.
Second.
A motion has been made with the second. Council questions? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin,
yes,
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
and Mrs. Klein.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion adopting a resolution approving a development minimum assessment agreement with Kamens and Masonry LLC for the construction of a new industrial building with outdoor storage and authorizing mayor and city clerk to execute said document.
Second.
A motion has been made with the second. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin,
Yes.
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
Mrs. Klein,
Yes.
and Mr. Foyce.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Number 8, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Klein.
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing for asbestos abatement services contract number AB-2021-03-8P at 725 Glenwood Street, 663 Kern Street, 214 Cottage Street, 409 Wellington Street, 413 Wellington Street, 915 Linden Avenue, and 921 West Second Street.
Second.
All right, the motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now open. Madam Clerk, are there any comments on file?
No comments on file.
Is there anyone in Cyberland that would like to speak to this particular item? All right, thank
I'd
you.
like to make a motion to close the hearing and receive and file oral and written comments.
Second.
A motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'd like, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'd like to make a resolution confirming approval of plans, specifications, form of contract, et cetera, and authorizing to proceed.
Second.
A motion has been made with the second. Council? Madam Clerk?
Mrs. Jewin,
Yes.
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
Mrs. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
and Mr. Greider.
All right, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to receive, file, and instruct the city clerk to read bids.
Second.
The motion was made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Madam Clerk?
Right, our estimate was $25,400. Our first bidder was Abatement Specialties LLC of Cedar Rapids, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their bid amount was $29,500. Second bidder was Site Services Incorporated of Algona, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their bid amount was $19,140. Third bidder was AAA Budget Environmental Incorporated of Monticello, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their bid amount was $21,784. Our fourth bidder was REW Services Corporation of Des Moines, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their bid amount was $30,326. Next bidder was Active Thermal Concepts of Hiawatha, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their bid amount was $28,350. And our final bidder was Advanced Environmental of Waterloo, Iowa. They provided 5% security, and their bid amount was $19,900.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a resolution awarding the bid to Site Services Inc. of Algona, Iowa, in the amount of $19,140 in conjunction with asbestos abatement services at 725 Glenwood Street, 663 Kern Street, 214 Cottage Street, 409 Wellington Street, 413 Wellington Street, 915 Linden Avenue, and 921 West Second Street, approving the contract, bond, and certificate of insurance and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute said document.
Second.
The motion has been made with the second. Madam Clerk?
Bozen,
Mr. Mayor.
Oh, Mr. Morrissey.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit concerned here. I mean, we had a local business only about $700 different And I'm wonder why we couldn't take that local bidder with that little amount of money difference between the two. Why didn't we take the local bidder?
You still can. Mr. Anderson, comments?
Noel Anderson, Community Planning Development Director. As far as I'm aware, we are required to take the low responsible bidder. This is a responsible party. They were the lowest bidder, even though it's close. I don't believe that we have an ordinance. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong about taking a closer one. I believe we have to take the lowest responsible bidder.
No. Mrs. Klein. Mr. Morrissey, are you done?
Yes, sir.
Mrs. Klein.
I just want to say this is great. I mean, yes, my preference would have been a local bidder had he been the lowest bid. But I've walked by every single one of these houses in the last 10 months. And I've seen these houses, some of them I've photographed, and I'm just glad to see that we're beginning to move on them. Thank you all.
All right. Anyone else? Madam Clerk.
Mr. Boson,
Yes.
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
Mrs. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
and Mrs. Jewin.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Number 9, please.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Foyce.
Foyce. Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing, and that is for the demolition and site clearance services contract number D-2021-03-06P, located at 1004 Fulton Street, 179 Rebecca Lane, 118 Shillham Avenue, 421 Logan Avenue, 154 Harrison Street, and 242 Hogle Street.
Second.
Second.
All right. That motion has been made with a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now open. Do we have anyone that would like to address this item here at cyberspace? All right. Mr. Foyce.
I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Second.
The motion has been made with a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now closed.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution confirming approval of plans, specifications, form of contract, etc., and authorizing to proceed.
Second.
The motion has been made with a second. Council questions? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
Mrs. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin,
Yes.
and Mr. Boson.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to receive, file, and instruct the city clerk to read bids.
Second.
The motion has been made with a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Madam Clerk?
Our estimate is $81,500. Our first bidder is Lehman Trucking and Excavating Incorporated of Waterloo, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their bid amount is $72,942. Our second bidder is Frickson Brothers Excavating of Evansdale, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their bid amount is $80,500. And our final bidder is Schrader Excavating and Grading Company of Walford, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their bid amount is $114,415.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution awarding bid to Lehman Trucking and Excavating Incorporated of Waterloo, Iowa, in the amount of $72,942 in conjunction with demolition and site clearance services at 1004 Fulton Street, 179 Rebecca Lane, 118 Shillham Avenue, 421 Logan Avenue, 154 Harrison Street, and 242 Hogle Street, approving the contract bond and certificate of insurance and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute said document.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
Mrs. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin,
Yes.
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
and Mr. Amos.
Yes.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to say, thanks to staff. We hear a lot about what is not being done, but it's good to see we're taking care of other people's problems and trying to clean up our community. Number 10,
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Morrissey.
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file approved publication notice of public hearing on the regulated asbestos containing materials demolition services contract number RD 2021-03-1P located at 220 Hopkins Court.
Second.
Second.
The motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now open. Madam Clerk, is there anyone on to speak to this particular item?
Not for this item.
Comments on file?
No comments on file either.
All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
A motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now closed.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion adopting a resolution confirming approval of plan specification, form of contract, et cetera, and authorizing to proceed.
Second.
All right, that motion has been made with the second. Council questions on this Rackham? All right. Madam Clerk?
Mrs. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin,
Yes.
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
and Mr. Morrissey.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to receive, file, and instruct the city clerk to read the bids.
Second.
A motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Madam Clerk?
All right, our estimate was $33,200. We only had one bidder on this project. It was Lansing Brothers Construction Company Incorporated of Luxembourg, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their total bid amount was $31,300. They had a cost deduction to the base bid of $6,500. Their total without the deduct to the base bid is, or excuse me, the total with the deduct to the base bid is $24,800.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion adopting a resolution awarding bid to Lansing Brothers Construction Company Incorporated of Luxembourg, Iowa, in the amount of $24,800 in conjunction with regulated asbestos-containing materials demolition services at 220 Hopkins Court, approving the contract, bond, and certificate of insurance, and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute said document.
Second.
Motion has been made with the second. And just for people to understand, when you see the regulated asbestos containing materials and why it's separated from the asbestos portion on number 8 and number 9 is because there's a specific way that this has to be demolished versus the removal of the asbestos. So it costs a little bit more to do that. And also a special expertise is required when we have to do it this way. So Madam Clerk.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin,
Yes.
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
and Mrs. Klein.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Could someone take 11 through 14 for me?
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Klein.
number 11 is a resolution approving an overnight town agreement with Ventures Endurance LLC for 2021 RAGBRAI events in Waterloo. Number 12 is a resolution accepting U.S. Department of Transportation and Federal Aviation Administration grant monies for additional coronavirus response and relief in the amount of $5,034 for the work associated with the Waterloo Regional Airport and authorizing the mayor and city attorney to execute said document. Number 13 is a resolution accepting U.S. Department of Transportation and Federal Aviation Administration grant monies for additional coronavirus response and relief in the amount of $1,600,000 $7,984 for work associated with the Waterloo Regional Airport, and authorizing the mayor and city attorney to execute said document. And finally, number 14 is a resolution approving the fiscal year 2022 through 2026 capital improvement and fiscal year 2027 through 2032 long-range needs assessment plans for the Waterloo Regional Airport, and authorizing the airport director to execute said documents for submission to the Federal Aviation Commission.
Second.
Motion has been made with the second for 11 through 14. Council or anyone in the public with any questions on these items? Council?
Mayor,
Mr. Bozen.
I have two questions, and the first one's on number 11. And I don't know if city staff can answer this, or Mr. Hall. I see that he's on the Zoom meeting. But I've been contacted by a gentleman today, and it's a legitimate question. He wants to be able to host riders at and camping in his yard. And is there any issues that the city's going to have when people are going to be taking in a large group of riders to be like a host house to let them use their showers, their bathrooms, and camp in their yards?
Mr. Hall?
So we are not, in years past, RAGRI has offered some housing solutions for folks that wanted to stay with local residents. We're not facilitating that this year, just out of precautions with regards to COVID. So folks are able to do that on their own. If folks want to connect with riders and have those conversations, by all means, if they're comfortable, but we're just not going RAGRI from a state, and our organization isn't going to be in a spot where we're facilitating.
Right.
Another problem soon.
Well, he just froze, and I need to hurry up and take a picture of his face, the way it looks while he froze.
He's gonna love you for that.
So basically what I'm hearing is this year they're not facilitating, that folks have to reach out individually if they need to. Mr. Bo.
And this gentleman said that it was his relatives that were writing and reaching out, but he just wanted to make sure that he was not violating anything that the city has to have a group of people camping in his yard overnight. I don't believe that's a problem.
Yeah, not right now. So.
My next question was for Mr. Kasperi, and it has to do with number 13. And I kind of led into that in our budget work session, because when I read the paperwork from the FAA on this $1 million, close to $8,000 COVID money, it's not real specific in how the money's going to be spent. And I was wondering if Mr. Kasperi could expand on that outside of the 4 pages of paperwork that I read.
Mr.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, City Council. Keith Kasperi, Airport Director. I might want to just carbon copy what our CFO sent a while back, in that while we appreciate the funds a great deal, we have not received any guidance on the term or length of term that we are able to utilize these CARES funds. If you recall from last year, approximately a year ago, we were awarded some dollars too, and we're going to be, with all of the CARES Act funds that we receive, very judicious of how we go about using them. So until we get further guidance from the Federal Aviation Administration on the terms of use and how long we have to utilize these funds, we'll go about the utilization as carefully as we can. All that being said, though, is what they are trying to do for airport operators, and especially this large one here, if I can just read the background information, would be for the costs that we incur as a city of Waterloo for the cost for operations, personnel, cleaning, sanitization, janitorial services, and doing what we can to combat the continued spread of airport pathogens and debt service payments. So we'll be getting more information out to the city council members once staff gets more information to our city leadership, like our CFO and our mayor.
Thank you.
Any
All
other
right.
questions I can answer?
Any other questions about 11 through 14? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin,
Yes.
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
Mrs. Klein,
Yes.
and Mr. Foyce.
Yes.
All right, thank you. 15, 16, please.
This, Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Jewin.
number 15, move approval of a resolution approving a permanent easement agreement for a 280 square foot drainage easement from North Star Community Services, Inc. in the amount of $319.20 located at 3420 University Avenue, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute said document. Number 16, move approval of a resolution approving a professional services agreement with Automatic Systems Company of Ames, Iowa, in an amount not to exceed $72,556 in conjunction with existing aeration blower control panel upgrades, and authorizing the mayor to execute said document.
Second.
The motion has been made with the second. Any comments on the two items? Madam Clerk?
Mrs. Jewin,
Yes.
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
Mrs. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
and Mr. Greider.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Could someone take 17?
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Klein?
I'd like to make a motion to receive, file, consider, and pass for the first time an ordinance amending the City of Waterloo City Code of Ordinances by amending subsection B, prohibitions in use of section 13, fireworks of chapter 2, general offenses of title 5, police regulations. I guess that's the end of it, police regulation.
All right, thank you. Can we get a second, maybe?
Second.
Second.
All right, the motion has been made with the second. Council, so first, Madam Clerk, we've had a number of emails either for or against. Where are those located at?
Those are uploaded to Novus, so the council and the public can see all the emails that we've received to date about this topic.
And I did, there was Mr. Larry Levins that called and asked that I mention the one. He was not able to make it for another event. And he just said he does have PTSD and he's okay with the fireworks. He lives at the corner of Vinton and Franklin. And he said, if we move to banning fireworks, then we need to ban loud motorcycles as well, because he hears those 8 months out the year. So he asked me to read it specifically. And then Madam Clerk has the rest of the comments uploaded. Is there anyone on right now, citizens that would like to comment to this item?
I have two registered speakers. The first is Jerry Thornsberry.
All right, Mrs. Thornsberry.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
We sure can.
Oh, well, good. Thank you. Good to see you all. I ask you to pass this ordinance banning all personal use fireworks in Waterloo for the following three reasons. Number one, all citizens have a right to peace and tranquility in their homes and on their property. Those who choose to buy and fire essentially a missile loaded with a variation of gunpowder, even for one day, infringes upon those rights. As you know, in the city's planning and zoning ordinance, the first purpose shall be to promote health, safety, and general welfare of citizens. Number two,
Some questions regarding the impact of fireworks. What about the veterans and others who suffer from PTSD? What about disabled citizens who, like my nephew, who his hearing is so acutely sensitive, he must wear noise-canceling headphones day and night and take a mild anti-anxiety drug to survive the noise for 3 days? What about those disabled citizens who have no ability to address you tonight and have their say? Doesn't their distress matter? What about a friend who relives the loss of a family member by gunshot each time she hears the next M150 explode? What about our citizens, young and old, with severe health problems that become extremely agitated with the noise? What about parents trying to get their young children to sleep those nights? What about our pets who must be sedated and oftentimes at the peril to their own health? Do they matter? Shouldn't all citizens matter? And number 3, most of us don't live in the country any longer. Today, the majority of us live in established neighborhoods with our houses built about 10 feet apart from each other. The residual debris created by exploding fireworks creates a potential hazard to an unsuspecting neighbor in cases where the firework landed in their fenced yard or on a roof 3 doors down. Those persons exploding these fireworks often cannot clean up the area, even if they had a mind to, because they have no clue as to where their firework landed. So alas, the debris remains as a reminder that someone's personal freedom matters more than the peace and tranquility within the community. I'm still dumbfounded that this council thinks it's okay to disrupt the peace and tranquility of every citizen using the rationale that those who bought these fireworks should be allowed to light them off in the city limits of Waterloo. Do dollars spent by individuals matter more than the distress incurred by all other citizens because of their decision to buy a product? These people can always drive out into the country to explode their fireworks. I get it that it's a tradition here in America to celebrate our nation's independence with fireworks. Organized and choreographed shows have delighted people for decades. Typically, these shows last maybe 45 minutes. This is celebrating the coming together in commemoration of the birth of our nation. Usually the mayor has a super show downtown. Sunnyside Golf Course has had celebrations in the past. I'm sure there are others throughout our city. Why aren't organized collective fireworks shows enough? They are designed to bring the community together. Personal use fireworks are just an outrageous nuisance. Please do your job to promote the health, safety, and general welfare of citizens. Pass an ordinance now for the permanent ban of personal use fireworks. Stand up for the majority who don't want these fireworks disrupting their lives even for one day. Do the right thing now to protect peace and tranquility of all citizens. Enough is enough. I fear this year we will experience an escalation of fireworks being shot off due to the restrictions that this horrible COVID virus inflicted upon all of us. Thanks for listening to my words, and I ask you to please consider the many who will not speak to this council because they believe you will not hear their voices anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, you have someone else registered?
I have a Joshua GB.
All right, Mr. GB.
Hello.
Mrs. Thornsberry, could you mute your line? All right, Mr. GB. Mr. GB. Chris, can you allow him to? Mr. GB, are you there?
Can you hear me now?
We sure can.
Okay, sorry about that. I would like to address the city council to take into consideration here that I don't believe the city should be the judge and jury on this. I think if you're going to make a decision on this, you need to put it before your constituents and let the city decide. And I mean, it's in all reality, it affects, people are saying it affects them. Some people say it doesn't affect them. You need to let your city decide so you can get the full grasp of everything. Put it up for a public vote.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. All right. Do we have any other community members on that would like to speak to this? All right. All right, council.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Morrissey.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I am a little bit perplexed as to why this is even coming to us right now. Back on August 17th of 2020, about 6 months ago or so, we, as a response to what happened last summer, amended our ordinance, making it more restrictive. We put more detail in it. We refined it. We put additional, stronger, more robust language when it came down to enforcement. And I just would refer to the council to that ordinance and the changes that were made. And I know that I sent all the council, two at a time, information that detailed exactly where we've been, the footprint that we've had since this was brought to us back in May of 2017, about a month and a half before the fireworks started. And in fact, shortly before the places were allowed to sell fireworks legally. And I know that people, and I understand what people are saying about, the effects that it has on some people. But at the same time, there are many people out there, I don't know if it's a majority or not, but in the missives that I received from people, the majority that I got said that they wanted to keep fireworks so that they don't end up being lawbreakers because they're setting off fireworks that they bought legally and possessed legally. So I think that we need to give what we passed on a unanimous vote last August a chance to work. One of the things that we all recognize was that last summer was that time when we were sort of holed up and we weren't doing anything. We weren't going to large gatherings. And I guess I could speculate, and others have speculated, that the reason why things were so bad with the fireworks was because people didn't attend those kinds of celebrations. So they did it at their own home. The other thing, well, there's several things about this, but right now we do have 362 out of our 365 days banned. And even on those 3 days, we have hours, and outside of those hours, they're banned. So an overwhelming percentage of our year has fireworks banned. We can't do anything about the state law and what it says as far as the sale and the possession of fireworks. But what we can do is allow those people that are buying those legally and possessing them a chance to not break the law or be considered lawbreakers. I know that there are all sorts of people that really don't care. They're going to go ahead, shoot the fireworks off on public property, shoot them off on property that's not theirs, leave debris. But that is exactly why we strengthened the ordinance in the language that we did last August. Let's give that a try. If we're going to revisit this again, at least let the ordinance that we passed unanimously in August work, or give it a chance to work to see how it ends up. The other thing I just want to mention is that the enforcement aspect of that is so important. And we included decibel ratings. We included nuisance property part of that. We also changed a word in there, which went from may enforce to shall enforce on our ordinance. That makes that more robust and says to the chief and to Major Leibold that this is something that we as a council are acknowledging that it needs to be enforced, and no longer is it a may. And unfortunately, in this proposed banning resolution, it reverts back to the may enforce rather than the more robust shall enforce in the manner of that new ordinance language.
Thank you, Mr. Morrissey. Mrs. Klein.
I'll tell you why I brought it back. There's a lady down on Edgewood in my ward who has an autistic son, and he is 8 years old. He's nonverbal. He uses a little machine as an aid in his classroom to be able to so-called speak to his teacher. Sharp, unexpected noises. It begins him screaming. If you could ever see that mother, that is like a horror film, because she doesn't know when those shots are coming. She can't protect him from it. He can't wear earmuffs 24 hours a day. And in our neighborhood, let me tell you, it looked, it smelled, it felt like houses were on fire. The smoke was so thick. When you come into my neighborhood, it's a little bit of a depression where we live in. And it hovered, that smoke hovered. And I want you to think about that little boy. I want you to think about all the little boys and all the little girls, some of whom are perfectly healthy little human beings, and they are playing with these fireworks. It is only a matter of time, and you know it. You're all adults. You all have kids or are related to kids. You know we are only buying time before we lose one here in Waterloo or desperately injure one. And I know we got a letter from someone who has PTSD and thought it would be all right if it was only on 3 days, but that's not going to happen. You know it. You know how long we witnessed the witnessing of it, and then hearing all these people come forward with their horror stories for how they had to live last summer. I was with a group of people today. There were 21 of us. Not one person wanted fireworks, and they all wished me luck when I left. I beg you, just let's stop this. You know that we can't enforce it. Our police chief stood right there and told us last time. We don't have the manpower, and you know that the fireworks have become like gunfire. It has been. It's no longer the sparklers of our youth and the little snakes you lit. It's not that. These are, I believe, commercial grade. There's something. They are so powerful they can rattle a window. And we all lived through it. Now you can deny what you saw last year. Yeah, you can. And you can turn away from this. Yes, you can do that too. You can do that too. But I hope you don't. I hope you ban this. Yes, the state is wrong to allow their sales, I believe, in my opinion. We have to work on that. But saying yes to firing them off and having people from other communities come into ours so that they can do it totally legally, I think we need to stop it. And that's my opinion.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Amos.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I hear what Councilwoman Klein is saying as far as she's getting people who are definitely against it. I received one call about this issue, and it was from a woman who was against it. But talking with her, we had a good conversation, and talking with her, I told her, I understand the people who are against it, but I also understand that there are people that are for it, and they may not be using their voice coming to the council, but their voice of shooting those fireworks off and things say that they want them, that they are going to do it. And if we ban it, which we have done previously, they're still doing it. So to think that by banning it, we are going to keep people from doing it. Yes, there will be those that will follow the law if it were to be banned, but it's still going to happen. We're still going to have the same things. And by doing what we did, giving individuals those 3 days to shoot them off, in my mind, we are making a compromise. We are working with those citizens who want to do it. And like I say, I understand all of the negative things that are happening with it, but it's only happening because people are being allowed to buy them. You know, and that in my mind is where people need to go. Mrs. Thornsberry did a good job explaining and everything else, but start talking to those legislators and let them know what's happening and going on. But for me, I cannot. We have gone through this since 2017. Councilman Morrissey is exactly right. We have tried many different things to no avail. So that was the thought process is let's do it 3rd, 4th, and 5th of July so that individuals, and there's a time limit on that, to give individuals the opportunity that they want, and they are doing it by shooting them off and letting us know. Yes, it's detrimental. Yes, there are air quality issues. There are a lot of different things that are negative behind it. But if we ban them, all we are doing, in my mind, is telling those citizens that we're passing an ordinance where we are going to make it illegal for you to do it. And I just don't agree with it. And I cannot support a total ban.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Greider.
So I guess I don't find that argument compelling. I understand what my council members are saying, but we pass lots of laws making things illegal that we don't like. And sometimes people still break them. For example, that's why we have traffic cameras that collect revenue from people who speed. I don't think the argument there is that we should just get rid of speed limits because people break them. And I understand that people like to shoot these off. Listen, I was a young kid who grew up next to a state where they were legal. So I know that they're fun and they're nifty and they're bright colors and ooh and ah. And me and my friends did some really stupid things. But, you know, I've grown and I've matured, and I do hear a lot from my neighbors, from kids that I know who are on the spectrum, from people who have served or other people who struggle with this issue. And I understand that there are a lot of people who like to do this, but I also think that as elected officials, our fundamental duty is to help those whose voices are often least heard. And the people who are most impacted by this, I believe, are the people who can't come to these meetings, whose voices are not heard sometimes in the halls of power. Like the young man that Mrs. Klein spoke of, like the many young children and older people that I know who suffer from what they suffer from because of these things, and they can't be here and they can't voice their opinions. And you know, my fund doesn't trump their quality of life. And I just think that's really important for us to think about. I do agree with Mr. Morrissey that we should be using the strictest language when we do enforce these things, because I do think it's an important issue. And therefore, I offer the following amendment to the resolution, and that is to subsection G, enforcement and compensation. During the annual period in which fireworks sales are allowed, this section, and we'll strike out may and insert the word shall, be enforced by police officers who shall have authority to document violations and issue citations, and said officers may also respond to related nuisance calls. Thank you.
Mr. Greider, could you read that one more time?
Yes.
May versus shall. Is that pretty much it, Mr. Greider?
Yeah.
Changing that one word, okay.
Yep.
And I would second that amendment.
Any questions on shall versus may? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, that shall versus may is included in the total ban, correct?
Yes.
And then we'll continue discussions on the total ban after we get done with that. After we get done with replacing shall with may with shall. All right, Madam Clerk on the replacement.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Morrissey.
Well, I just wanted to add, what we're doing here, regardless of the may or shall, with a ban and putting this in here, what we're doing, we are basically increasing the amount of time that the police are going to have to enforce. We're adding basically 3 more days onto the 362 that they're already banned.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
Mr. Amos,
No.
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
Mrs. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
and Mrs. Jewin.
Yes.
All right, thank you. So that's it. Now, I know there's some others that want to speak to this item that haven't spoken yet.
Mr. Mayor. Thank you, sir. I just adding 3 more days to the that the officers have to enforce this. I mean, they wrote 1 ticket in 4 years. Moving from may to shall, the officer still has discretion whether he writes a ticket, whether it's fireworks, speeding, or whatever. It's still officer discretion. And our main issue, no matter what we discuss tonight, whether we ban it, whether we keep it the way it is that we're not going to enforce it, or we don't have the ability to enforce it based on our manpowers and our call volume. And for once, I would like to actually just see our city on the same page with our sister cities, with Cedar Falls and with Evansdale, and work together with those 2 cities to come up with some sort of a compromise so that we're all on the same page, so that we all are all together, whether we ban them, whether we allow them for 1 day, whether we allow them for 2 or 3 days. And I don't think this is something that really has to pass tonight, because we can push this thing out and working on this. I mean, I think we can push it out clear up to May to get the, correct me if I'm wrong, Kelly, to get the information into the papers and get this changed. Am I correct in that?
Say that again.
I said we would almost have clear up into May before we'd have to come up with a solution here, so it has time to get in the papers and before we start the sale of fireworks.
Yeah, that's correct. You'd actually probably have right into June almost.
Okay, but they start selling them early in June. That was my concern. But the other thing is I want to speak to this to Kelly, is we've changed this 4 times in 4 years. This ordinance continues to change. First, we had the ordinance, then we banned it, then we changed it and brought it back, and then we changed it again August 17th to create stiffer, stronger penalties. And I would like to just come up with a plan, come up with an idea, dates, ban, no ban, however we want to do it. But let's come up to a decision and let's stick with it. And because it's gonna continue to come back. And my issue is that if we work with our sister cities and everyone was on the same page, I could be more palatable. Even if our sister city said, let's all just do it on the 4th of July, that's a compromise. It doesn't make it right for the people like Mrs. Klein talked about, but it's a compromise. Like I say, no matter what we put in our language into enforcement, it's going to be difficult to enforce. The thing about it is last year we had 585 calls for service for fireworks complaints. Out of those 585, 437 of those calls were outside of the 3 days that we allowed for fireworks. And I don't know if Major Leibold is still on, but I had a question for him. And that is, out of those 585 calls for service, if we dispatch an officer on them, can he tell me what we pay the dispatch center for these nuisance calls for each call we're dispatched on? maybe it's not.
I believe the dispatch center costs us about $7 a call.
Okay, so that you talk 500. We spent $4,200 basically, or close to $4,200, just responding, just being dispatched to firework calls. I've received emails. Plenty of them that say they're begging us to ban them. I received 4 emails up until late this afternoon, asking to continue to have fireworks, and 2 of them were from the owners of Crossroads Fireworks. One was from a person that lives north on Highway 63, 8400 block of Logan Avenue, and the last one was from a lady on Euclid. And until I started getting some just before the meeting started, I personally would like to postpone this and see if we can work on a solution with our sister cities and come back to this council with a total ban, 1 day, 3 days, whatever would work to be more palatable to the people. Because I, for one, like Mrs. Klein said, knew people that came from Cedar Falls into Waterloo to shoot fireworks because it was legal. So I would like to postpone this and see if we could get these other issues worked out, because I think we have plenty of time to bring this back before the council.
Mr. Bozen, you and I probably agree on about 97,000 issues. The challenge is, Mrs. Klein, let me finish. The challenge is we're the ones changing. Like you said, we've changed 4 times. Now when we first started all this conversation, we were in lockstep with some of our surrounding communities. I even believe that one of the communities changed theirs based upon what we were doing. Then we turned around and changed again. So the other communities are locked in with where they stand at. It's us that keeps, it's Waterloo that keeps changing. So it's ultimately up to council's discretion, but how are we going to ask them when we don't even have an agreement over if they move down to 1 day, or if they did 2 days, or if they did 3 days or 5 days or no days? We don't even have an agreement from 3 months from the time we make an agreement. So that's a very hard position to put me in, to go back in to negotiate that, because we don't know what we want from year to year. So, I can do that and ask, but at some point we're going to have to make a decision and actually stick with it.
And I agree, sir. I interrupted, but I agree. But I'm just saying that even if we entertain that, just topic of discussion, entertain that to those other 2 communities, and they say they want nothing to do with it. They want to keep what they have, and because Evansdale is different than us, we have different dates. I think Cedar Falls is a total ban. All I'm saying is that we don't have to make that decision tonight if we just reach out and see if they were interested in opening that dialogue. Because right now we do have a decision. We have a decision right now until we pass this or pass a ban or not, is that we have 3 days that we have an open window for fireworks.
Right.
And if it's not what you do, I'm okay with not doing it then.
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Klein, there's a couple people that have not spoken yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mrs. Jewin.
Yes, thank you. I understand it's going to be hard for the police to enforce. I get that, and they just don't have the manpower to do it. But I still think that for a lot of people, the fact that they're banned is going to carry the weight, and they're going to realize they're not supposed to do it. As far as an agreement and being similar with our other cities, our other surrounding cities ban it. We're the ones that aren't. And so if we ban it, we are in compliance and in lockstep with our surrounding cities. I got no calls from anyone wanting the fireworks. Now, maybe it's because they know I oppose them. I get that. But I've gotten a lot of calls echoing what people have already said, wanting it banned. We opened it up last year, at least in my mind. I voted for opening up the fireworks last year because I thought, okay, let's give the public an opportunity to show how responsible they are. And very honestly, when it came to fireworks, I didn't see a lot of that responsibility. This has been mentioned, but in my neighborhood, it was awful. and there was the debris, there was the fireworks on people's roofs. We gave people a chance to be responsible with the usage, and not only did they go outside of the days allotted by a long shot, it was almost all of June and almost all of July, but they also used it in inappropriate ways and were not mindful of their neighbors at all. So I am very strongly supporting this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Foyce, do you have anything before we go back for seconds?
I don't really want to prolong any, our conversation, so I'll keep it as brief as I can. I've had no phone calls either way on this. I've received probably the same amount of emails that my fellow council members have had, and then some directly from my ward on this, and they are all against it. I think as councils change, I appreciate Mr. Bozen's comments of postponing only to ask and see if, as elected officials have changed, if thought processes have changed in Cedar Falls and Evansdale as well, just to see. I mean, prior to this, it had been 50-50 people, wanting to have fireworks versus not with the ban. And I think, maybe some people weren't paying attention to this now, but, we'll see.
All right. So I'm hearing folks want me to
Mr. Mayor.
ask other communities to reopen their ban. Mrs. Klein first, then you, Mr. Morrissey.
I don't expect that of you. I am friendly with several of the council people in Cedar Falls, and some of the things that people over in Cedar Falls have told me is that they think our openness about it has increased their fireworks, and they were not happy with that. Here's the thing: this puts us right in line with Cedar Falls, right in line with, and I go back to what my colleague Mr. Greider said. We're speaking for people who have difficulty making themselves heard, feeling important, and I think it's the right thing to do.
All right, Mr. Morrissey.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I guess I find it really hard to believe that people haven't looked at the numbers. People on this council haven't looked at the numbers. When we first had 5 days, we had 500 and some, 600, 700. And then we went to a ban, and there still were about 600 or so phone calls or calls for service. And then we saw that didn't work, the ban didn't work, and that there was little to no enforcement. So then the council, in a compromise, because people who were buying them legally spoke up and said that we needed to at least allow them some time. And there were discussions about 5 days, 1 day, when to have that. And that's when we settled on the 3 days. So it's the council, if you look at the numbers, we diminished the calls for service between the year 2018 that it was banned down to about 300 calls in 2019 when it went to 3 days. 2020 is a year that many of us believe will live in infamy because of what COVID-19 did to us and put us all in lockdown mode. And there are reasons for that. And so then we went and we created the more restrictive, the 2-page ordinance that includes 3 particular sections dealing with enforcement. And that was our response. And I think we need to give that ordinance that we agreed to on a 7-0 vote on August 17th of 2020, a chance to work. You know, when I hear statements made that we don't have the ability to enforce this, or you all know that we can't enforce it, people on council are basically telling people, you know, okay, so we're going to ban this, but we know it isn't going to be enforced. So go ahead and ban it because you're not going to enforce it. That makes no sense. That's contradictory, and it just doesn't promote the whole concept of banning when you say we're not going to enforce it. We can't enforce it. We don't have the ability to enforce it. As far as the towns are concerned, Evansdale has 5 days. Waverly came after us. They saw we had 3 days. They now have 3 days, just like us. Cedar Falls may ban it. They may not. They may come up and come up with something similar to us. We need to give our ordinance that we got in place a chance to work. The other thing is that I think Councilwoman Jewin said something about last year was year that we moved off it. No, we have been on 3 days since 2019. And as I stated before, and if you look at the numbers, the number of service calls went down from the ban year. It almost went down 50% to the year that we went to 3 days. All I'm saying is give this a chance. There are 60 some days where 69 days, 67 days where fireworks are legally sold in our city. We're saying that 3 of those days you can use them and enforcement is beefed up. And what has happened is that from the time they start selling them on June 1st through July 8th, people who don't go by, any kind of ban or restriction are setting them off all the time during those days. And then we sell them again from December 10th through January 3rd. We've banned those. And fortunately, there were not many complaints about fireworks over New Year's just passed. So I'm just asking this council, come on, let the ordinance that we amended and passed in August do its work. See if that will work. And then if that's not the case, we can come back and visit it again late July or in August. And then I guess this ban thing will be on the agenda at that point in time.
All right, this is you, and you have your hand up still. Would you like to speak again? Take your phone off mute. Mrs. Jewin?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Bozen.
I want to throw it out to the council. I brought it up earlier, and if the council decides against it, that's fine. But I would like to postpone this to a later date just for the ability to reach out to Cedar Falls and Evansdale. I'm not asking for a task force or anything like that. Just reach out and try to feel what their thought process is on trying to all get together on the same day. So I'm proposing that we postpone this to a later date until we can reach out and if we can't come to a consensus, bring it back and let's just vote on it.
I can send an email out this tomorrow morning. So he has a motion to suspend, or do we suspend or postpone, or what if like, what if, like right now, it is to have a complete ban? What if that changes, or how does that work, Mrs. Clerk? It just goes in, or what?
Then we vote it down.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
If we just
anyone make a-
follow,
Wait, hold on. Did anyone second his?
Mr. Boyce did.
ban? Okay, so that's on the table now. Now, question about the suspension.
yeah, Mr. Mayor, if we just follow and don't suspend the rules and have to go through a second or third reading, we should have the information from our neighboring cities by then. And you could make the decision in your vote based on what you learned from the report from the other cities. I don't think there's any reason to vote this down at this time. We'll have time to consider that additional information as we go through the process.
So so do you know right now if there's enough votes to support this moving forward?
There was in the work session. I don't know if those votes have changed or not.
All right. So we're debating right now the suspension. Questions
Mr.
about suspension. Mr. Bozen, and then Mr. Morrissey.
And sir, the reason that I'm bringing this up is this request isn't just my request. This is the request that was brought to me by the owner of the Crossroads Fireworks, who has a permanent establishment here in town, and I agree with what he proposed to me. Is that if we could all be on the same page. They have a store down in Bettendorf, and all of the surrounding communities have the same language in their ordinance, and they allow them for 2 days, but still there's no variance between city to city. And I can't guarantee that this ban is going to pass tonight. So that's the only reason I'm asking to postpone it until we can at least reach out. Even if it's just an email, we can bring it back next week. I don't care. But I just want to have the opportunity to see if we can just please get on the same page. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Morrissey, about the suspension.
Oh, well, no, I don't have
Morrissey.
anything to say regarding the suspension, Mr. Mayor. So,
Yes, Mrs. Klein.
I've known for the last couple of weeks that everybody has been lobbied by the owners. I myself have received their letters, and they're promising a lot of things. They're in it for the money. They're in it for the money, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I just would be disappointed if we abandoned this now because of responding to lobbying. I don't know, makes my heart sick.
Right. So we have a motion to suspend this for further conversation with surrounding cities. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey,
yes.
Mrs. Klein,
No.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
No.
Mrs. Jewin,
No,
and Mr. Bozen.
Yes.
Suspension passes 4-3. Can someone take number 18, please?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Morris.
I'd like to make a motion to receive, file, consider, pass for the second time an ordinance amending ordinance number 5079 as amended, City of Waterloo, zoning ordinance by amending the official zoning map referred to in section 10-4-4, approving a rezone of approximately 17.5 acres from A1 Agricultural District and M1 Light Industrial District to CP Planned Commercial District and BP Business Park District located at 700 Falls Avenue.
Second.
Motion has been made with the second. Questions, comments on the line? Is there anyone ready to speak for this, or council questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Greider.
I know we had held off in case anyone had contacted planning and zoning. So I wonder if Mr. Anderson has heard anything more since the last time we brought this issue up.
Mr. Anderson.
Cole Anderson, Community Planning and Development Director. We have not had any additional calls since the Planning Commission meeting.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
Mrs. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin,
Yes.
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
and Mr. Amos.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Motion's been made with the second. Madam Clerk.
Mrs. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin,
Yes.
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
and Mr. Morrissey.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
like to make a motion, consider and pass for the third time and adopt said ordinance.
Second.
Motion has been made with Madam Clerk.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin,
Yes.
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
and Mrs. Klein.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
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 Motion's been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.